So people are gonna see us now?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're gonna start seeing. Yep. We're gonna start letting them in. All right, ladies and gents, we're gonna get started here in a little bit, but I just want to, not sit in awkward silence as we're doing our hair and taking last minute sips of water. And as we get let in, I want to welcome you all, and we're gonna get started here in the next few minutes and just talk amongst ourselves until we do.
What are we gonna talk about, David?
Oh, we just got a new puppy. We can talk about that. Kate wanted.
Oh, that's so cool.
My partner wanted an adventure dog. I've got two. So for those that don't know, I've got two Chihuahuas. One is 5.5 pounds and one is 15 pounds. And they both don't do good on hikes and trails for too long. So she wants an actual dog. So we got a German Shepherd mixed puppy from my family's ranch. So
that's so cool. I got a puppy during the campaign, which is probably, and not this last campaign, but before that, probably not the right time to get a puppy. Just if anyone's thinking about running for office and getting a puppy at the same time, don't recommend. But he's just the most adorable puppy ever. And in fact, we made an Instagram account for him. So he's on Instagram.
That's awesome.
So
I'm gonna follow.
The @campaign puppy account, but it's adorable. He's a very cute dog.
I'm gonna look it up and follow it then. I didn't know he had his own account. That's great. Outstanding. Yeah. I mean, I'll reiterate, campaigns are tough for those that are thinking about running. And I've said this to both of y'all before, the three hardest things I've done in my life are combat, surviving and rebuilding my life, and then running for office in that order. So,
yeah. That means you were doing it right.
Yeah, but it's a privilege. I mean, it's when so many people start investing in you with their time and their money and their energy, like it stops being about you. It really, truly becomes about them.
Yep.
So. All right. Well, we're just at 30 actually, so we're gonna give it another couple minutes. I should play some music in the background. Any Community fans here? Did you ever watch that series?
Love Community.
Do you remember that song that Michael Higgins, that elevator music song that they would use? I think it was like 3rd or 4th season because they spent all their music budget on Roxanne. For the rights to Roxanne, so they use like this elevator music song.
It made the right choice. I mean, if you're gonna buy a song, right? Did you ever see The Magicians?
No, I've not seen that. No.
Oh. They got the rights to a David Bowie song, Under Pressure. They got the rights to Under Pressure. No one in the cast can sing. Like one person can sing, but the director got the rights. The director was like, we are doing an episode with this as the main part of the episode. And it was amazing. It was an incredible episode. Just humans. It turns out they're actors and they can't sing and they're just people. It was an amazing episode.
Definitely check it out. That's going on the list because I'm starting to run out of things to watch. Not that I'm not busy already, but
we're at peak TV, man.
Yeah,
there's so many.
Yeah,
things.
We are.
Superstore, highly recommend Superstore. Amazing show.
Love that show. I've started it actually. I'm still on the 1st season. It's just real people dealing with real stuff. And
it is. And they're positive, and it's not like a Charles in Charge where like one person lies and then they have to cover it up, and then like it's just a nice, funny half hour of real life. I mean, real life as far as
on TV. Well, I like the fact that someone in a wheelchair is represented too, and he is one of the most sarcastic people on the show.
And I think one of the coolest parts about that show is that he's just in a wheelchair. Like it's not a thing. It's not like just like, and there's also a human, and this human is in a wheelchair, and it's not like it's not a thing.
It's not the thing. It is still him acting and being himself, but it is a part of the thing.
Totally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are looking at 32 after, so I'm going to go ahead and kick this off and get started. I want to thank everyone for joining us today for our special small business town hall. We have some amazing guests today. For those of you that don't know, my name is David Ortiz. I am your representative here in HD 38, which is Littleton in the western parts of Centennial. And we have two amazing senators that overlap my district and somebody with the Colorado Enterprise Fund. I'm going to give them a couple minutes to introduce themselves. So if Senator Kolker, you want to start us off?
Hi, everyone. Chris Kolker, Senator for Senate District 27, encompassing all of Centennial.
That's your intro?
Senator Bridges, go ahead.
All right. Is this the bio spot or is this just the hey, I'm Jeff?
You got 2 minutes to do whatever you want.
Got 2 minutes?
Yes. 2 minutes? Well, geez, nope. I didn't realize it was 2 minutes.
We just talked about
I'd like
this
to be to
before
the
all
point.
people came on, Chris.
Let's to the point. Come on.
Dude, who are you, Chris? Tell me about yourself. Why'd you run for office?
Oh, I feel like this is the dating game. Or Hollywood Squares. This is the first introduction to Hollywood Squares.
Square, yeah.
So yes, thanks, Senator Bridges. You kind of caught me off guard.
I'll go and then you can go. You can think about.
Yeah,
okay, we'll do that.
yeah. My big push is mental health and education. There you go.
All right, sounds good. Hey everyone, I'm State Senator Jeff Bridges. I grew up here in the district I represent, went to Littleton Public Schools K through 12, graduated from Arapahoe High School, went to Kenyon College after that, worked on some campaigns around the country, worked for Ken Salazar in the US Senate, where I handled military and small business policy, appropriate for the topic of today's town hall. And after that, went to divinity school, which is unique. I'm the only legislator in the state legislature, House or Senate, that has a Master's of Divinity degree, which I think is a perfect degree. It was a really interreligious, diverse place, and it was all about bringing people together around shared values. And that's the job in the legislature. It's about bringing folks together around shared values. And I've had that job now for the last 5 years. I started in the State House for 2 years, and the district was House District 3, so not David's district, but just north. And in that district is Sheridan, Inglewood, Cherry Hills, and Greenwood Village. And then 2.5 years ago, Daniel Kagan resigned. I won the vacancy election to take his spot. And so now I represent Senate District 26, which adds to HD3, the Arapahoe County part of Littleton. And then on the other side of Greenwood Village, I've got the Cherry Creek Reservoir, which is great because the geese are very progressive. Canadian though, so they can't vote. And then I've got a little bit of Aurora and then unincorporated Arapahoe County between Aurora and Denver. So super diverse district, really, it looks like the state of Colorado, which is perfect for me. I try and bring folks together as much as I can. Every bill that I have passed and had signed, with the exception of one, has had bipartisan support. And that one is the safe gun storage bill from this year. My first purely partisan bill, because man, that one was you just had to do that one. We know for sure from the research, it's the most impactful thing we can do to save kids' lives. So there we go. We passed it. And I serve on the education and finance committees. And I'm chair of the Joint Technology Committee, where Chris also serves. So Chris, any more? Or is that your intro?
Well, thank you, man. You gave me, see, that's experience.
Lots of time. That's teamwork.
That's experience. So I'm a certified financial planner. I have my own small business, investment management, financial planning. I was a former high school. I am a former high school history and government teacher, but that's been 21 years since I stepped in the classroom. I taught, I coached. I have to remind our 8-year-old that I was a coach. I do know what I'm talking about when I try to give her advice on the soccer field, because you're not a coach. Well, honey, so I actually got the VCR out and showed her some game tapes over the weekend, to show her that I actually was a coach.
I love that.
And I coached high school. But for me, the best thing here about being in the Senate is doing the work that I said I was going to set out to do. And I've been running some bills on mental health. I just did an op-ed in the Denver Post. If you haven't seen it, it was in the Denver Post recently this week, Tuesday, I believe, on a bill for the 988 hotline. To create a suicide prevention hotline here that was created nationally. And I think this will just be a takeoff for the state, and it will be ingrained in our society. You think mental health emergency, you think 988. So being one of my first bills ever to run and my first session, it's a lot to live up to. It's still a lot of work to do, but I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing the work that I said I was going to set out to do. So that being said, I'll kick it over to Representative Ortiz, because I like to just get to the point.
Awesome. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Alan, if you want to tell us about yourself and about your organization.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks so much. So Alan Ramirez with Colorado Enterprise Fund, and I'm representing really a resource, hopefully, for everyone on the call today as it relates to small businesses. I work for an organization as a director of Lending Colorado Enterprise Fund. We're a statewide organization. We're certified through the U.S. Department of Treasury as what's called a Community Development Financial Institute. So essentially a lender that has a community development focus. So many of our loans are targeted to low-income, underserved communities or low-income individuals, minority, women, veteran-owned businesses. And so I'll be talking about the products and services that we offer, as well as a few initiatives that we offer as well. So thanks so much again for letting me be here today.
Outstanding. Thanks, Alan. So we're just going to jump right into it. There are two ways that, well, there are many ways that the government can impact and support our economy and small businesses. But the two that I will talk about is one, through government spending. And we're seeing that impact through the American Rescue Plan and kind of what the state is doing there. So I'm just going to briefly touch on some of that. Just to let you know that the state of Colorado is anticipating $3.8 billion in federal stimulus money coming from the American Rescue Plan. That's 700 to 800 million in packages that are going to be doled out. Part of that's going to be going to 2.2 billion is going to be going to local governments and tribes. And then we're breaking it up through different programs. The Senate and the House are both doing amazing work. And I just kind of want to run through the three phases and some of the bill titles. And
I mean, the Senate's doing better work, really.
Oh, that's debatable. I mean, we always have to clean up y'all's mess. We always have to throw amendments on what y'all are doing, and you guys have to approve them.
Sorry,
Y'all do the same for us.
You were flowing there.
It's teamwork, baby. That's what it is. We help each other.
That's right.
So some of the titles, and to briefly touch on some of what we're doing, is helping displaced workers. So getting funding around that. $15 million are going to the Colorado Opportunity Scholarship Initiative for Displaced Workers Grants. There's some great work being done there. We're not forgetting our rural parts of Colorado. We're doing a rural jumpstart. This bill directs $3 million to the Rural Jumpstart Grant Program. Clean energy finance, that was something that we're doing with this bill, allocates $40 million to the Colorado Energy Office for several clean energy financial initiatives. The BEST program, and this bill allocates $10 million for Building Excellent Schools Today Act grants to fund much needed public school air quality improvement projects. So again, some of this money is going to improve our education and our future economy, but making sure our schools have what they need. Restaurant sales tax relief is another area that it's going to, and that's going to allow food service contractors, concessioners to deduct up to $70,000 in net taxable sales from their monthly sales tax return. So some great work being done there. And incentives for conference and events. We all know how COVID has hit some of our favorite venues, some of our favorite events that we go to. So that's making sure we're seeing help there. Mental health sessions for youth. I mean, we can't underestimate the mental health impact that we've seen in a time of COVID. So this is making sure that we're providing resources for our youth as we're coming out of the other side of COVID-19. Workforce centers and training awards. I mean, I could go on and on. We're going to include the list for links so that you all can see the amazing work that the Senate and the House are doing with that money. So as I said, one of the ways that we can help our citizenry, our economy, our small businesses is through spending. Another way that we can help is through tax breaks or tax incentives. And that leads us into the SALT Parity Act. So the basic of what this will do, if it moves forward, it's a bipartisan bill in both the House and the Senate. And essentially it ensures that S Corps and C Corps are treated the same, meaning that it allows for whatever you pay in state taxes to be written off towards your federal taxes. So there's no impact, or supposed to be no impact to the state budget. It's only going to impact kind of what's paid on the federal level. And I'll give a short one-liner just to go a little bit more into the weeds. The short and simple explanation is that each year that an entity makes the election to, the entity will calculate the same tax from that calculation gets washed out for state purposes by virtue of the state tax add back when the entity files its state tax return and calculates its state tax. So this is all to say again, that if they're paying a certain cap on state tax, it can be applied toward federal taxes, C Corps and S Corps at the same level. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to the financial analyst brain to talk more about that and some of the other programs that he's working on. Senator Kolker.
Thank you, Representative Ortiz. Yes, salt parity was actually brought to us from a CPA in Northern Colorado. So this is where hearing from our constituents and listening to our constituents really makes a difference and is very impactful. In 2017, Congress enacted the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. And that act, what it did for small businesses, S corps and partnerships, and my personally am a small business, we're an S corp. It said that if you pay $10,000 in state income taxes, you cannot write anything over that off of your federal income taxes. So it capped it. To me, it was a punishment because C corps, big major corporations, they don't have a cap. They can write whatever they pay in state income tax, they can write off against the federal income tax. So this is why we call it parity, because it puts it in parity with what the larger corporations are allowed to do. We could even go back to 2018. There's some debate about, because of Tabor, whether or not we can do that. So we're working out the details on this to allow this to happen. And if we can get this in this year, great. If it's not going to go in this year, it will be our first bill next year, because it is a stimulus, in my opinion, to small businesses. Other states have already enacted it. 8 states have enacted it. 14 are trying to enact it this year. The IRS has given us permission to do this, to basically say you do not have a cap anymore. And by enacting this bill, we could be providing millions and tens of millions of dollars in stimulus and tax deductions that are going to be received by these small businesses from the federal government. So it's revenue neutral to the state of Colorado. It doesn't cost us a dime. It's the federal government that has this deduction, and they would be getting the deduction off their federal income taxes. So excited about that, especially with the coordination of getting it from constituencies. Another bill that I'm also sponsoring is called the allocation of state money for workforce development to increase the skills of Colorado workers. So this is a Colorado stimulus bill, provide $25 million to invest in reskilling, upskilling, and next skilling. Again, saying skilling so many times is going to give me a headache, but so this
You very
is
skillfully said it there, Chris.
Yeah, this is an initiative for Workforce Development Council, the state council, to facilitate training to unemployed and underemployed workers. So that $25 million would be given out in a grant program, we're coordinating that with community colleges and around the state. So excited about that. It's passed the House already, so it's coming into the Senate, and see if we can get this done. Again, direct investment with people in the state through the Department of Labor. One bill I want to mention that I heard in committee and we passed, it was a partisan vote that we passed on, unfortunately. We passed today, was a bill to give aid to rural communities, to provide a rural zone, $3 million. And it's direct grants to new businesses, startup businesses who hire new employees in rural areas, especially areas that are impacted by the transition from coal. And I really thought this was a good bill. Unfortunately, we had pushback on a partisan level, and I still think it's a good bill. And these are the kind of things that we're doing, not just here in the metro area for people here, but people all over the state. So excited about seeing that go forward also.
Outstanding. Appreciate that update, Senator Kolker. Senator Bridges, you want to talk about helping restaurants, building back better, and other work that you're doing for small businesses here in your district?
Absolutely, ton of stuff. So first, I'll start with the Restaurant Recovery Act, because this came from a constituent. I don't know how many of you have been to the Inglewood Grand, but if you haven't, you are missing out. It is, in my opinion, the best Manhattans in all of the Denver area. So strongly recommend. And during the pandemic, when everything was shut down, I actually went there they weren't letting anyone inside, but they were selling Manhattans to go and other drinks. And I had started a conversation with the person who owns it, Erica Zerke, who actually used to work in the Senate. And she said, it's these to-go alcohol sales that are really keeping us afloat right now. And I thought about it, and the only reason she was allowed to do that was because of the governor's executive order. But we know that it's going to take years for restaurants to recover, and restaurants are some of the hardest hit small businesses in this state. We have lost more than 10% of restaurants, and we will probably lose more even now, even as things are starting to come back. And so last year, together with input from Erica and her husband, Phil, who own the Inglewood Grand, and in conversation with bars and restaurants across this entire state, we passed the Restaurant Recovery Act. And what it allowed was the continued sale of alcohol to go, with restrictions. It has to be in certain containers and things like that. But that has been a lifeline for these small businesses. Now, it's not going to, on its own, keep a restaurant or a tavern open, but it gives that little benefit that folks need just to get by, because these are job creators. These are critical small businesses in our communities. They're often run by people we know and have a good relationship with, a place where everybody knows your name. We want to make sure these places survive and that they can continue to serve their communities. And so we passed that. Additionally, you heard David mention the continuation of a sales tax relief bill for these folks. We did that during the special session last year. We started and said, for the first $70,000 you make, and a lot of these restaurants and bars were not making $70,000 during, November, December, January, and February of this last year. But for that first $70,000, don't pay state sales tax. We can find a way through without that money. We are getting money from the feds. We had more money in our budget than we expected, and prioritizing saving these small family-run businesses was, top of the list for us. So we did that. We passed the Restaurant Recovery Act. This year, I have another bill to extend that for another 5 years. That just passed this week. It passed the House unanimously. So it will allow that to go alcohol sales to continue for the next 5 years. All the evidence says that it doesn't increase drunk driving. It has no impacts on public safety, but what it does is it, for folks that want to get a couple of tacos and a burrito plate to go from a local Mexican place, you can get the margarita too, because you probably don't make a margarita as well as they do. So it's good for consumers, it's good for businesses, and I'm so proud that we got that done, and so grateful for that conversation I had with Erica. Additionally, some other small business stuff we did. We passed the Energize Colorado Fund last year. We handed out more than $35 million in grants to Colorado small businesses across various different sectors, but primarily in that tourism and restaurant services area. And part of getting that grant is that you had to say, yes, you did intend to reopen when you could. And so those were to get those businesses through to a place where they could then hire people back and continue to serve the people of Colorado and can continue contributing to our economy. And this year, I've got a bill called the Accelerated Growth Program. So this is for businesses of 19 or fewer who want to grow and grow quickly now that we are entering back into a place where that's something that's possible for these businesses. A lot of businesses have been held back. So these are sort of accelerator grants for these folks. In the finance world, it would be thought of as sort of mezzanine capital. You have a business, you are still a small business, but you intend to grow. You've proven the concept, but you intend to grow to multiple locations and grow big. This is specifically for those kinds of companies. And then finally, something I'm incredibly excited about is broadband. So I am the prime sponsor of a bill that will invest $75 million into Colorado's broadband infrastructure. And that's going to be split between a couple of different things. We're going to invest about 35 million of that into those final last mile connections. So this last year has proven the critical necessity of broadband, I think, especially for our young kids, right? The folks that have been having to learn at home. In normal times, I think you need books, backpack, and broadband. Like those are the basics for learning in school. But especially during the pandemic, when you have to learn from home, you got to have broadband. So making that last mile connection is what we're going to spend a big chunk of this on. But then access, right? Adoption, the ability of folks to get broadband where they live, even if they have a cable coming into their home. Maybe they can't afford that connection. Maybe they don't have a trusting relationship with folks like Comcast. Maybe they have bad credit, and so they can't sign up. So there's a program here that we're creating specifically to help folks who can't afford to get online. So it's folks that already have that connection. And in fact, if you look at the state, there are more people that can't get online because of their income than because of a lack of infrastructure. So there is accessibility for two different reasons, and this creates that a fund for that other piece. Tribal areas are going to get a big chunk of that, and then we're going to spend some money on that middle mile to make sure that even if you have that last mile connection, the slowdown might not be that last mile. The slowdown might be between where you live and a hub somewhere in Denver or something like that. So we're going to spend some money making that middle mile more robust for those communities. And we know that broadband is a huge economic driver when we get it out there. So this is a direct investment into making sure that companies across the state have the infrastructure they need to really grow and succeed.
Outstanding. Appreciate that, Senator Bridges. At this time, we have planned a Q&A for the three of us. Do we have any questions to draw from, Arina?
We have a question from Susan Ritter, if she would like to ask it out loud. Go.
Great.
Yes, I am working with Together Colorado.
Oh no, we lost you.
And
And you're back. There we go.
sorry, we are working to pass a bill. It's HB. There we go. HB 1142. It involves police oversight and accountability. Just passed the House. It has to do with a police practice called show-ups, which is a method of a victim or witness identifying a suspect. And it is results in misidentification and a lot of difficulties for, of course, a person who is misidentified. Anyway, it's making its way through the legislature. Like I say, has just passed the House. It really doesn't have a downside. There's no negative side to it. We are working with a lot of police agencies, law enforcement agencies. Not all of them are enthusiastically lined up, but some of them are. So, and we are working also with DAs. They are still sort of on the fence, but like I say, it passed the House. So I would, I feel like it is kicking the door open a little more into law enforcement accountability and oversight, and which is not a bad thing. And all professional law enforcement folks seem to be amenable and open to that. I retired out of education, and of course, there's a lot of oversight and accountability, and I can't hardly think of any job where there isn't a lot of oversight and accountability. So anyway, I'd like for the senators to enthusiastically support this bill 1142, and hopefully we can make it into law. Are you aware of it, and do you have any questions?
This is the first time I've heard about it. But I just looked it up, and it looks like it passed the House with bipartisan support. So I would be very, very surprised if I found something in it that I didn't like. But I will take a look at it, and I will probably be a yes on it. But I'm not. I never say yes to something before I know what it is.
Right.
But thanks for letting me know about it. I'll keep an eye on it. And again, it passed with bipartisan support from the House, so almost certainly this is going to pass.
Yeah, there was a lot of good work done on it. And just to let you know who in the Republican side worked on it with them and had concerns at first, but was a yes, an enthusiastic yes, and just really sang the praises of the bill sponsors for the work was Representative Terry Carver.
Harvard, yeah.
So
Look, Terry likes it. I mean,
right?
Right. We worked hard. We went into it with the idea that, you know, we're going to reach across the aisle and, so to speak, a lot of, you know, work in compromising, and you know, we have a great relationship with Chief Pazin with the Denver Police Department, and so feel like it's the beginning of good things. And Colorado already is sort of on the cutting edge of that.
Together Colorado, good progressive people of faith. I mentioned Divinity School, so I'm very familiar with Together.
Oh, okay, yes, right. Of course, you know, you have to be a little careful because people go, oh my God, here come the religious nuts. But it is a group
Progressive
of
religious nuts.
well-meaning people who happen to be interdenominational people of faith, trying to walk the talk and not only live our faith, but execute our civic responsibilities as well. So appreciate the support.
Outstanding.
We're excited.
Susan, thank you for
First
your
time
work
we
on
ever
that.
got
Thank
into
you.
the business of lawmaking, so we're pumped.
Thanks for your comment and question, Susan. I really, really appreciate it. Senator Kolker, did you want to
No,
say something too?
I was
or-
aware of it early. I haven't seen much lately on it, but I was aware of it early and understand the premise and definitely support that. So
Great. Thank you, Susan. We really appreciate it. Arina, do we have somebody else lined up?
Yeah, we have a question from Reed Morris.
All right, Reed, if you want to unmute yourself and if you feel up to it, show your camera and feel free to ask your question. Okay, still can't see or hear you. There we go. Oh, nope, you just unmuted and muted yourself back. There we go. It shows you unmuted. Oh, nope, there we go.
There we go. We can see it now too.
So my question's on Senate Bill 200, and I'm a small business owner and a constituent, and I think I posted the question in the chat, but I guess for the benefit of everyone else, I really want to know what we're going to do to get that passed, and to hear from the three of you what the House and Senate is going to do to get it passed. We need to have enforceable climate standards and actions. I saw Governor Polis's comments yesterday, which were unfortunate. And I don't think, and I would really urge everybody to not view that as any type of headwind that would give any further pause to passing this important piece of climate legislation. It's good for business. I know that this is a small business town hall specifically, and that's specifically what I came to talk about and hopefully hear more from you. I think Senator Bridges was dead on yesterday when I think it went when it was passed out of committee that a plan without an action is a wish, and without some teeth, we're just not going to get where we need to be. And where Colorado needs to be is not just on target, but a leader, as it has been on lots of other issues, including a renewable energy standard, and methane, and other things that it's led on. It's an important leader for the country. So I will take the answer off the air, so to speak. Thank you.
Thanks, Reed.
Senator Bridges, you want to start with that since you got quoted first?
I mean, I voted on it last night, so I'm on the record. And yeah, that's exactly what I said. This bill puts some teeth into a plan that we've already put together. And if we're going to meet our climate goals, I think we can't just have a plan. We have to have action. And as I said last night, plan without action is just a wish. And I think I thought that was someone else's quote, and I looked it up. It is close to what Nelson Mandela said. So it is obviously true if it's a quote from Nelson Mandela. Yeah, we got to do something on this. We got to pass Senate Bill 200. I'm fairly sure that we're going to pass it, and then I'm fairly sure that the governor is going to veto it. And we will not have the votes to override that veto. It will probably pass on a party line vote.
And, I got to echo what Senator Bridges says. When it comes into the House, this will be something I'm supportive of. And, I hear that there's still negotiations going on with the governor's office. We'll see where that ends up. But I really hope that everyone understands the breadth of environmental and climate change bills that we are running in both the Senate and the House, whether we're talking about stopping, the use of or the overuse of plastics, whether we're talking about some of the funding that is coming from the American Rescue Plan for loans and grants to renewable energy businesses. It's going to be a whole package and a whole host of things that we're working on to make sure that we're combating climate change and supporting renewable industries and supporting our small businesses that way, as well as the Office for the Transitional Office. We have to talk about that because as we move away from one industry to another, again, going back to your quote, if you're not going to put money or skin in the game, then it's just a wish. And so we are going to be funding that office, and we're going to be making sure that we're funding other grants and programs that are going to be supporting those that are making that transition. So.
And I'm
Great.
going to speak up and tell you I'm against this bill at this point because there's still some things to work out with labor And it doesn't mean I'm not going to change my mind. Okay. It doesn't mean I'm not looking to change my mind or don't want to change my mind. I want to figure out what labor has issues with and what those issues are and bring them, see if we can coordinate with them and get those issues taken care of. Environmental justice and environmental policy in general, I am absolutely in favor of, but I'm also want to make sure that the people on the ground today that are working and how their jobs are being affected, I want to make sure that we have that opportunity to address those. If you don't know more about me, I grew up with a dad who worked in a factory, was UAW member, and he barely graduated high school. And at 45 years old, I always think about, if his job was taken from him with the benefits that he had, or 45, 50 years old, how would it have left us as a family? And so on that personal note, that's how I look at it. And so that's why I'm listening to labor right now. I am a lean against is what I told the lobby today, but I haven't started the stakeholding on it on my part. So I'm just getting started there.
So to follow up on that, I had an amendment that I was ready to run for labor. And there's part of labor that supported that amendment. And then the other part of labor, specifically pipe fitters and electricians, still had some concerns even with that amendment. I had committed to the sponsor that I was going to be a yes on the bill with that amendment. And then those folks said, please don't run that amendment in committee. We want to continue having conversations about this. So agree with Chris, we have got to find a way forward on renewable energy that is good for workers. And part of why I'm such a strong supporter of renewable energy is that generally speaking, renewable energy means jobs. And it is not this either or. For too long, folks have said it's either renewable energy in the environment or it's jobs. And I think we can have an incredible environment. We can be a supplier of renewable energy for folks across this part of our country, and we can create good paying union jobs as we do that. So, there are some challenges still to work out in that bill. I'm confident we're going to work them out. And then hopefully we will find a path forward to make this actually happen and make this bill become reality. But even if we don't do it in this bill, there's no reason that we can't create a strong economy on the basis of renewable energy. And in fact, I think the basis of renewable energy contributes to a strong economy.
Amen. I mean, I've got nothing else to add to that. You both kind of covered both of the bases and said it best. So we still have some time. So do we have anybody else that's looking to ask a question, Arina?
More questions.
Yeah, I have Candace Moon on deck.
Great.
Hi, good evening, Senator and representatives. Hello. Hi. I was wanting to know, can you talk to how you plan to get the message out to small business about the benefits in the rescue plan?
Yeah, in every bill that we've passed so far, there has been an advertising component in that bill. So that is anything we do at the state level is going to have within it some sort of outreach plan inside that bill. There's so much money coming in right now, though. So there will be federal programs, and I don't know what the federal plan is to make sure folks know about those programs. As those federal programs relate to state programs, our state money will also be used to make sure folks are connecting with those federal programs. In Colorado, we are a net giver state to the feds. We actually, more than most states, we give more money back to the feds instead of getting more money from the feds. So anytime we can get folks to connect with federal programs and pull that money down, we want to make sure we can do that. And for the benefit of our businesses, we value our businesses. And if there's free money sitting at the federal government, we need to make sure we pull that down. So letting people know about the opportunities they have is a core part of how we make sure that people are actually taking advantage of those opportunities. So that is part of every single bill that we've been passing.
Outstanding. Said it all. You beat me to the punch.
Nothing bad.
I won't start next time. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
You're the senior here. You're the senior.
Yeah.
I agree with what you said, Mr. Bridges. It's just that this is a problem that we're seeing is we're getting this money, but we're not getting to spend it all.
Yeah.
And then when I go out, people are saying, well, I didn't know that it was available. So I just feel like somewhere in there, we need to do a better job of getting the word out and explaining to people that it benefits them as small business to put in for these funds.
Yep.
That's been a focus,
Someone-
Candace. That's definitely been a focus. I'm sorry to interject, but I'll give you an example. It's on all of our bills with stimulus money. The 211 bill that we're passing, that I'm sponsoring, it has a line item in it for advertising. Okay, because what it's doing is publicizing 211 to the unemployed and the services that 211 provides, not only for housing, for food insecurity, but also for mental health and behavioral health. So it is something that we are aware of, and absolutely it's a shortfall many people think of, because if they don't hear of it, then how are they supposed to know? And we're trying to fix that right now.
Yeah.
And I just want to call attention. I want to call attention to one of the bills. It's HB 21-1271, affordable housing incentives for local government. So I know that as a city council member, you're deeply involved with municipal government. So I want to call your attention specifically to that one. And the bill is going to provide 13 million in incentives and technical assistance to local governments to provide for rapid deployment of affordable housing projects. And we will do our part. Apart from money being built into the bill, we have to make sure we're all doing our part through our newsletters, through our social media platforms, and through town halls like this. Yes, yeah, to make sure that, and I know a lot of us here already do that, but just reiterating that this is why we try and make sure we do as many town halls as we can, and make sure we put out newsletters, because that's where the information is going to be couched as well.
So, in one more thing I'd add, if someone could put a link to the Small Business Administration's local small business office, that's a great place to be finding all sorts of programs that aren't just state, but also federal. And I'll bet Alan's going to speak to that as well coming up here.
Yeah, actually, Candace, you're going to round out. We have another Q&A section coming up, but thanks for keeping me on time and on task. And we'll just,
all right,
yeah,
guys,
so
well, I'm getting ready to go to the car wash, so cool.
Cool. Thank you, Candace.
At this time, Alan, if you would please unmute yourself and talk about Colorado Enterprise Fund and kind of the more specifics based on the intro that you gave us earlier.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure. So yeah, with Colorado Enterprise Fund, as I mentioned, we are a nonprofit. We are a small business lender, and we do also offer technical assistance, or essentially business consulting, to our customers. For so many of our small businesses in Colorado, they don't always have easy access to capital. So who we specifically are funding are businesses that walk into the bank and get declined, whether because they're a startup, it might be because of their credit, collateral, cash flow issues. Maybe it's too small of an amount, and that bank just won't consider that small of a request. And so we, as a community development financial institute, step in to help that business access the capital that they need to start and grow. And so the loans that we offer, they range anywhere from as small as 1,000. So these are micro loans, or as large as $1 million. And so for us, a big part of it is helping these businesses start their business. They're creating jobs, creating income for themselves, creating benefits and services for our local communities, which is key. And then secondly, the technical assistance or the coaching that we offer them throughout the life of the loan is free. During this pandemic, we transitioned a bit. And Senator Bridges, you mentioned the Energize Colorado program that you would help bring to light. We were fortunate to be a part of that program and deployed over $5 million in grants. And so during the pandemic, we did also take on some grants, which was new for us. Historically, we only offer loans. We also supported El Paso County and Colorado Springs with the grant program, deployed over 13 million there in that area. And Boulder County just deployed over 5 million in that community. And so separate of the grants during the pandemic, we also launched what we called COVID relief loans. And so these were small injections of capital for businesses, loans up to 50,000, lower documentation, but just a quick need as everyone kind of began to try to understand, what is COVID? How is it affecting us? My business is closed. What do I need? With our COVID relief loans, they were very targeted to 7 different communities throughout the state of Colorado. And we've deployed just over 6 million in loans in these COVID relief loans. Separate of that, obviously, we've been busy with the Paycheck Protection Program as well. We've contributed to both rounds. There's been 2 rounds. I was looking up our numbers earlier. For the first round, we deployed just over 18 million in PPP applications. The second round so far, we're up to 25 million. We're a small staff. There's just under 30 of us currently doing this work. It's definitely been the most challenging year, I think, for us as an organization, but I think it's also been an incredibly productive year, but the need is still out there. And so, Senator Bridges, you mentioned the SBA local office. They've recently just launched the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And so that is coming to light soon. I would encourage folks on the call today to go to the local SBA website. This is another grant program specifically to restaurants, again, to help them keep afloat. So a great resource there if you haven't tapped into that. I also wanted to share historically what we do, going back to the loans. We have special initiatives. And so some of the initiatives that we support are veteran-owned businesses. So any veteran-owned business honorably discharged, we offer discounted rates to those veterans. And again, these can be startup or existing, and these are loans up to $500,000. We also have specific loan programs around access to healthy foods. Many of our rural communities, low-income communities, don't have access to the typical grocery stores that many of us may take for granted. And so these communities need to have these grocery retailers, these producers, the distributors, and ultimately the retailers to access this capital. So we have special initiative, very low discounted loans to help these individuals start and grow their businesses again, and very specialized coaching and technical assistance specific to their industries. We've got 2 new programs that we're going to be launching. One is around specific to Black-owned businesses. And so these are going to be loans with interest rates as low as 2.99%. There'll be smaller loans up to 50,000. But again, the opportunity, the barriers to capital in that community, as we've seen, is critical. And so we've been fortunate to partner with various investors to help us reduce the rates and be able to offer these rates at a 2.99. We're also looking at many businesses in Colorado also who may not have a social security number, but are still entrepreneurs. They're still running their businesses. They're not residents of Colorado. However, they're filing taxes like many of these businesses, still creating jobs and still creating services and benefits to the community. So for businesses with individual tax ID numbers, ITINs, we are also offering reduced rates at a 2.99%. This is part of a COVID recovery plan. So many businesses are not quite through COVID or through this pandemic. And so we're really saying initially they were COVID relief loans, right? Just to kind of get these businesses through. But now I think the second stage, we think as an organization, is really what does the recovery look like? And how do we truly build out of this? And so those are 2 segments of the market that have not received much in funding during the pandemic. And it's why we're targeting these segments, why we're offering reduced rates. What I would say for the audience is there's so many resources in the community. I think Colorado Enterprise Fund can direct you to grants. If you're not looking for loans, that's fine. Who are the organizations that are maybe offering grants right now? I do think the market and the state is going to be inundated with opportunities for grants, hopefully soon. And so if you can access a grant, we want you to access a grant. If a loan is something that may benefit you, then we're happy to discuss that with you as well. I think ultimately the takeaway for many of you today is just know that there is a resource out there. We've been established, like I said earlier, since 1976. So since that time, we've been taking on risk. We understand riskier profiles. We understand various industries. And it's always been more than just capital. There is always the coaching and the business mentoring. And the business mentoring that we focus on is really 4 pillars. We focus on financial literacy, helping folks really understand their P&L and their balance sheets, really beginning to understand their margins within their industry and where they should be. What should my cost of goods be? What should my cost of labor be? What are my occupancy costs? Really attempting to empower those businesses so that they can speak to that and really manage that on a day-to-day, weekly, monthly basis, however Secondly, we're looking at their marketing. You know, what do they do within social media? What is their website? What is their visibility? What's their product mix? What's unique about them? What's their content to communicate with their communities? And so really attempting to raise their visibility. Third is their operations. What's their training look like? What do their employee handbooks look like? You know, how are they growing? Do they have a growth plan? And then lastly, legal assistance. If folks are signing leases quick, is it really the best lease that they should be in? If they're dealing with contracts, can our legal team look at their contracts and help guide them through that? And so really the idea is that these smaller businesses, many businesses in Colorado are micro businesses, less than 8 employees. It gives them a soundboard and they're not alone. And so now they can speak to those 4 areas, their financials, the marketing, the operations, the legal assistance, and they have the support. Recently, we had a Spanish speaking customer. They own a grocery store in a low income area. There was a leak in the exterior of the building, and landlord was resistant to fix it. It was a quick fix, a quick letter from our legal team to the landlords, letting them know, here's what the lease says. It's your responsibility. It was fixed in less than a week. Issue was resolved, but it just helps that business have a voice. And again, it's capital is one piece of it, but it's really how you use the capital. It's really how you operate your business that makes you successful. And our goal is to help these businesses really just hit the mainstream. If a business can walk into a bank, qualify for that loan, great, perfect. If that business is generating enough cash flow where they don't even need debt, even better. But for those businesses that can't, we're just a good resource to help them start and grow. So thank you so much.
Alan, thank you so much for kind of giving us a great overview and kind of the additional services you offer besides grants and loans. Really appreciate that. So at this time, we're going to open it up for another 10 minutes of question to include Alan in this panel. So Arina, if you want to queue up the next question.
We have Monica.
Great. Monica, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, and if you want to show your camera, we show you muted at this time.
I was hoping you could give me some updates on how the House Bill 173 regarding landlord and tenants is progressing. Is there any movement on that?
I think it went through second reading today, Senator Bridges.
So it was weighted heavily in the beginning towards tenants, and I was hoping there'd be some discussion and that would make it a more balance between the landlord and the tenant. So there was support on both sides and working together. I do know from the group that I communicate with, hardly any people had to evict tenants because they were proactive and did everything they could to make sure they got the resources they needed and the help they needed from the landlord to stay in their property. And the bill kind of seemed like it was going to wipe all that out and make it harder for a landlord to be able to do that in the future.
Yeah, Monica, thanks for the question. So this bill has passed out of the Senate. There were significant amendments made on the floor during second reading. And we're waiting to see what will happen to it in the House. I think that's the current status of that. I just so that you know, and the folks listening know, I worked very hard on that bill to try and find a balance. Worked closely with the drafters of the bill, with the proponents, and with the opponents of the bill. And I think we found a lot of middle ground here on that, as far as I understood it, was acceptable to the proponents, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions to that. 1 or 2 things we put in there that they weren't super excited about. So we'll see what happens as it goes through the House. And then I think at this point we just have to wait. My goal on this is that people need a place to live. And people that are renting to folks are providing a place to live. There are good tenants and there are bad tenants, and there are good landlords and there are bad landlords. And so we're in this place where we are trying to protect good landlords from bad tenants and protect good tenants from bad landlords. And that is always going to be a balancing act. And I think where we got this bill in the form it passed the Senate strikes that balance, and I think the right way.
That's
And
great to hear. Thank you.
My apologies there, Monica. I was thinking of 1121 residential tenancy procedures, which we'll be hearing tomorrow. So quite a few bills, as you said, and if you have concerns or issues, just let us know what specifics about the bill that you would like to see addressed. Sometimes, we look at these and don't know exactly. I've read this one already for tomorrow, 1121, and some changes. It's really dealing with residential procedures on deadlines and timelines. So if you're familiar with that bill, I'd love to hear your opinion on that too.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Monica. Really, really appreciate it. And thanks, Senator Bridges, for kind of giving us behind the scenes on the balance that you guys were trying to strike in the Senate. So really appreciate that context. All right.
Ellie next.
All right, Ellie, we
Just
can
to be
see
clear
you.
on that, there are very unhappy people on both sides of that, David. So striking a balance doesn't mean you make everybody happy, but I think that's where we were. So
that's good governance in my mind.
Ellie, yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
Hi.
I'm driving across Kansas. So the question that I typed in is essentially, are you all considering allowing cut to costs for running and owning and operating nano breweries that produce less than 100 barrels of beer a year?
Senator Bridges is the liquor expert. We'll let him start.
I get in so many liquor fights. Ellie, do you know how contentious liquor fights are at the Capitol? There's no other issue that is more brutal than liquor at the Capitol. Yeah, David's laughing because he's like seen just a taste of this. It's been a fun year. So I have no idea what you're talking about. What are super micro breweries?
Nano breweries?
Nano breweries.
Yeah, so they produce less beer than a microbrewery. They produce literally like less than 100 barrels of beer.
Major, micro, nano. Okay.
It's not bathtub brewing though, right?
That's a different brewery.
But less licensing, lower costs for licensing.
So are you considering, well, apparently you're not, but this was just an idea, was lowering the cost to license a nano.
What I hear you asking is, would we please consider something like this?
Sure.
No, yes?
No, it just was an interesting, like, is this something that's being considered?
It's not on my radar. I don't think it's on anybody's radar, especially not this session. But that's why we hold these meetings.
You just put it.
Why we find out what are some issues that are appropriate, that are important to people. So
it's on the radar now.
You get a chance to email any one of us, please, because summer's coming, session's coming, and we'll be working on next session soon.
Well, and I'll ask if you would put your email into the chat. I'll get one of our aides or interns to collect that and make sure we follow up with you. We don't want to put too much onus on you. Like, you decided to attend the town hall, so if you would put your email in the chat, we'll do the rest.
So I'm not going to type my email in the chat because I'm driving.
Okay.
But I will have my husband
illegal.
do it.
We don't want you to get fined. Okay.
Please.
Right.
Although David, wading into a liquor fight, that's bravery right there.
And I've been in so many.
Or foolishness.
Well, if we're going to do it for beer.
The controversial bills, remember?
Listen, if we're going to do it for beer, we need to do it for whiskey too.
Oh, he's
You guys
already
have no idea the Hornets.
Yeah. People are going to watch this and we're going to get calls immediately after.
Yeah. There's going to be some lobbyists on the phone. It's a really interesting idea, Ellie. If you're not making as much as these other folks, why should you be paying as much? It makes sense. That being said, very little in Colorado liquor law makes sense. So we'll see what we can do.
Right. Okay. Thank
There's
you.
a lot of, I call it, the way I put it is there's a lot of hangovers from the prohibition in Colorado liquor law, and I'm working my way through them.
And Ellie, what we like about it's not a red or blue issue. So
it's beer.
No, no, the violence comes from all quarters on liquor laws.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ellie.
Thanks.
All right, Arina.
We have Annie.
Annie, please, we can see you. Can please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, this is Ann Milliken. I'm calling, or I'm here, and I appreciate this opportunity. My question doesn't initially sound like it's related to small business, but I really feel that it is. Our state employees support the types of bills that are being passed and that you've discussed tonight in a lot of detail. And I guess I want to just clarify, I'm not here as a state employee, I'm here on my own behalf. And my question is, will you support measures to invest in the state employee workforce? And I'd like to just tell you a couple quick things. State worker compensation is about 16% below the private sector for comparable positions right now. 1 in 5 state jobs are currently vacant. And that means that people are being asked to do more with less, which we all understand. I know that small businesses do that all the time. But people are being sort of picked off by the private sector. And that's requiring, overtime. It's causing staffing shortages. It's making things difficult. It's making it difficult to serve the public, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
And in my unit, which is about 40 people, I work at the health department. We have really been very busy over the last year with COVID. Lots of people have been pulled off their positions to work on COVID, which is great. That's what we do. But we've just this year, in considering that we were in the middle of a crisis, it would be a safe time to have a state job. I can think of 6 people in my group of 40 who have left since January for the private sector. And I think 3 of them went to nonprofits. And they commented that they were offered much more money. So people are committed to their jobs, but it's difficult right now.
And I'd like to speak to that first, if everyone doesn't mind. So, and what you said too in your written question, you spoke about the pension plan, para, and how much it's increased in the contributions. So this is my specialty. This is what I do for a living. Back in the day, you used to put in 8% of your pay into para, and the employer used to put in 10%. Because of the underfunding of para, you've increased to 10, and the employer has increased to over 22%. I have numbers here in front of me that the state employees every year are putting in the state for the employees is putting in $340 million to catch up para. Now, if you divide that out by the 54,000 state employees, that's $6,000 a year that the state is putting into deferred benefits, which could be in your pay. That could, raise your pay. So the reason that is the way it is because we're trying to catch up and fund para. And I'm doing all this because I'm doing a research project on this besides everything else that we're doing. And $900 million a year between all the entities, state, school, local government, judicial. $906 million a year is being put into para from those employers. So, I'm passionate about getting teachers paid. The average first year salary in the state is hovering around $36,000 a year for a teacher. And it's hard to get that pay up and to raise pay and get you better paid when we're putting so much in the pension. The pension needs to be funded because we rely on that. My wife's a para member. Over 90% of my clients in my financial planning investment management business are para members. So para is important. I don't want to see it go away, but that is the reason behind the lack of current pay, because we're putting so much into deferred benefits. We have to address that. It's not an easy issue. It's something that I hope to work on over the next 3 years, but it has to be addressed. And I'm just telling you, that's the reason why. and we have to do better.
If I can follow up on that too, I know that, and I don't have my long bill in front of me, so I'm not going to be able to give the exact details, but I know part of putting money back into the separate departments for certain departments was making sure that we were putting back some of the pay increases that we deferred on, essentially. So that's something that we are doing in the long bill. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't give you the exact line item and what departments it is. The reason why that sticks out of my head is because it was a debate along party lines. And I do remember us holding firm on making sure that that's an important aspect of what we're trying to put back into the long bill. I know that I'm working on a bill with Representative Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez, SB 21244. That's going to create a pot or a fund to be able to, in the long term, in the long term, based on what might happen on ballot initiatives or whatever, to create a pot of money that goes directly to teacher pay raises, a sustainable teacher pay raise, to kind of make sure that they're seeing a pay increase as well. So for those two, and then also I want to bring up the fact that SB 21172 is the teacher pay raise. SB 21244 is the healthcare benefits that were negotiated for our aides. So there is definitely an appetite to make sure that state work and those that serve the state and the public get a livable wage and also get the benefits that they work so hard for, because we have a lot of our aides here right now. We know we wouldn't be able to do half of the work without what they do. So this long explanation was to say this is definitely something that we're working on and that we'll continue to work on. And I don't know if Senator Bridges, you want to wrap us up or finish up or correct anything that I might have made a mistake on.
No, everything you said was absolutely correct. Thank you so much, Ann, for working for the state. I mean, part of the deal is that if you work for the state, we take care of you, and we haven't been holding that end of the deal up very well over these last few years. This year, we're doing what we can. There's more money in the budget than we expected. Shoring up para is something we have to do to make sure that when you retire, you get those benefits. That is a big part of the reason that people work for the state. So, that's a real priority for us. And David mentioned our aides. They're on the call. We're making sure they get health care. And I'm going to say it because I couldn't believe I heard it. One of the folks on the other side of the aisle during the debate said, well, they would save more money if they just signed up for Medicaid. I'm like, I don't think someone should work for me. Like, you have an aide who works for you. I don't think someone who works for me should be having to go on Medicaid. I think that we should take care of the people who work for us. And it's not just Hannah who works for me. Everyone in the state is part of who it is that I have an obligation to take care of as a state senator. So thank you very much for what you do. And we're working on it, and we're going to do more and more year over year. It's a priority for us, for sure.
And that argument that, hey, let's just pay them a little bit and they can get funded with Medicaid was just one of the most jaw-dropping, head-scratching arguments I ever heard in my life. So,
and I want to give a shout out to the aides that did this. I wish I had the courage back when I was a lowly intern and an aide to fight for these benefits and these pays. And even though I was in Texas, I probably would have even had a harder fight at the time. Like, maybe if I would have fought harder, younger generations wouldn't have to take on this fight. So I really commend them for their courage and the hard work they did in making that happen and putting that together. Thank you for asking your question, Ann. We're at time. We're at 36 after, so you're going to be our last question. But it doesn't stop here. We're going to continue hosting town halls. There are ways to get in touch with each and every one of our offices. At this time, though, I would love to allow each of you a 2-minute closer if you want to, starting with Alan.
No, just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to share our resources. If you do have any questions for us, please go to our website, coloradoenterprisefund.org. You can call us directly as well at 303-860-0242. Again, I'm Alan Ramirez, just happy to answer any questions that we can, but bottom line is we're here to help small business, and hope to hear from you guys soon. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thanks, Alan. Senator Kolker, you want to?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Representative Ortiz and your staff for organizing this. And I appreciate being here, appreciate hearing the questions. And remember, our good ideas come from you most of the time, if not all of the time.
Outstanding. Senator Bridges?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for taking the time, everyone. This is where we get good ideas. And right now, I think the number one challenge we face is there's a lack of trust in government. And part of how we build that back is through transparency. So you participating here tonight is part of how we get the word out that, like, we're just people. We're doing the best we can. My personal cell phone number is on my website, bridgesforcolorado.com. You can give me a call or shoot me a text anytime. Would love to hear from all of you. Please not after 10 p.m. because it is actually my cell phone. And I like to, sleep and spend time with my wife every now and then. So
awesome. Senator Bridges, thank you. And I'll wrap up by saying, Laura, I do see your hand up. If you would, please reach out to our offices and ask your question. That way we will get you an answer. We each have amazing staff, an amazing team of staff and interns that do answer constituent emails, and we do it ourselves as well. So don't hesitate to do that. I want to thank everyone for attending tonight, coming together. We heard a myriad of issues. This was a small business town hall, but obviously we are intersectional in everything we do. So I want to thank everybody for attending. We're available to you. So whether you go to Senator Bridges' website, text him on his personal cell phone at 10:15, just to mess with him just a little bit, or if you want to sign up for our newsletters or be a part of Team Ortiz's policy advisory committees, really, they impact legislation and are also an idea or a think tank for future legislation. I mean, I would have to give a shout out to the Healthcare Policy Advisory Committee. As I'm in the healthcare committees, they are asking questions, and I'm either asking the bill sponsors personally or asking it for the record, depending. So democracy in action does not happen without you. So thank you for attending tonight, and we look forward to continuing interacting.
Thank you, David, for putting this together and allowing me and Chris to crash it, and for your passion for what you do.
I don't know if I'm quite as eloquent as I need to turn the hope of my passion into action, but we'll see.
I haven't heard any eloquency tonight, though. I mean, you're just
I'm slacking.
Plain talk right now.
I'm slacking, but I appreciate it. So thank you guys so much. It's great to see the senators, even though we're 100 yards away from each other.
I know this. I've spent more time with you here on the Zoom than I have the whole time we've been in the legislature. Yeah,
absolutely right. But it's great to see you all. Thank you for attending. Thank you for the work you do, and thank you for all of you for being here. We'll continue to have more of these. So everybody have a great night.
Good night.
Night.
Not too bad.